This course is presented to you free of charge by TTJ Tech Services of www.ttjtech.biz and by SturItUp of www.sturitup.com. And remember, Stur is spelled with a U, not an I, so that's SturItup.com. TTJ Tech Services and SturItUp are pleased to offer this course to you, to the glory of God, and to the benefit of all those who listen. Welcome to iPad for All Computing, session number 16. Back to notes.
Doc, notes. Note, text field is editing. Remaining iPad 2024 sessions.
I happened to be reviewing the agenda and discussing that with Trainer Kliph, so that's what we're looking at there. That is the note that is open. You'll recall that on the left-hand side of my screen is the sidebar.
Show sidebar button.
You'll recall that sidebar displays a list of folders that you may have and the ability to create new ones. You remember also that you can have a folder within a folder, also known as a subfolder, and that's entirely doable. Now, I want to remind you that we also have this. We also know that the 12.9-inch iPad, which I'm using today, the iPad Pro, if you show the sidebar, it stays visible until you hide it in the Notes app, okay? So it's more like it functions in the TV app or the music app or something. On an iPad Pro of that size, it doesn't go away on its own. On the other iPads, such as my iPad Air, which is a 10.9-inch device, when you choose a Notes folder, the sidebar automatically disappears or hides again. That is not the case on this 12.9-inch iPad. So now, I want to look at some of the other. We looked at the folder options that we could long press, and we could see different folder options. We talked about how we could share folders collaboratively. We could turn a folder into a smart folder so that if it has certain keywords in the note, that note automatically appears in that folder. We talked about some of these other options. But what I want to do first now is I want to long press on an individual note today, because I want to show you some of the options that you have on an individual note. So we're going to do that in a couple of minutes. And actually, before we even do that, I want to show you a couple more options on the screen of the iPad here that we have within a note. When we're in a note that we are creating or that we're editing, I want to show you what some of the other options are. Couple people mentioning that like they had the undo showing up and stuff like that. And I think some of that is because if you, as I said, if you shake the iPad, it'll possibly bring up that undo screen. But you also have to remember that above your on-screen keyboard, there are going to be different options like that. You don't have that on your phone, but you do have extra options here. And today I have even more options because I'm using the 12.9-inch iPad Pro. So I've really got a full on-screen keyboard in front of me. I'm in a note right now.
Return.
And I've got the keyboard up.
Use the rotor to access misspelled words.
I happen to be at the end of the note. And, you know, if I'm just touching my keyboard and sliding along on the screen here.
Cap double cap Q.
Right? But
Quebec.
To the left of that,
Tab.
I got the tab key. Below that,
caps lock.
The caps lock.
Selected. Shift.
There's shift. Now, what if I go above the...
Caps lock.
What if I go above the... Oh, did you hear that? I don't know if we ever talked about that.
Selected. Shift. Quadruple tap to enter caps lock.
A sighted user can double tap. We actually have to quadruple tap, depending on how we have our settings, because if we're using touch typing direct... Now, I'm using direct touch typing, but you also have a rotor here.
Caps lock. Activate default.
So you could use the rotor to turn on caps lock and turn it off. But what I want you to notice on the 12.9-inch iPad Pro is that above the QWER, that top row of letters, we have the full row of numbers, just like a physical keyboard.
Tab.
We'll go up.
One grave accent.
There we go, and you can see
1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Right, all of that. And if I were to push the shift key, my numbers...
Cap Q, exclamation mark, at, numbers, dollar sign, percent, caret, ampersand, star, left paren, right paren, underscore, plus, delete.
Now, doesn't that sound familiar? That's the shift key with the letter or the number row. So we can turn that off. I wanted to show you that, but I also want to go even higher than that then, directly above the numbers, or if you don't have a larger iPad like that, it's directly above U, I, and O. You can also go to the leftmost key on your on-screen keyboard,
1.
and we can go
Grave accent.
to the left, and I want you to hear
Real. Review.
those are our quick type, predictions, suggestions, because I just typed an R in there just to have something to work with there.
R.
But then look at this now.
Paste button.
There's the paste button.
Redo. Dimmed button.
There's the redo button.
Undo button.
And there's the undo button.
Note. Text field is editing.
And then there's the notes, the actual edit field. So when I talked about on Monday and again yesterday in the lab when I talked about having the focus on the edit field in order to be able to do things like add a link and so on, sometimes you're just hearing undo and redo because you landed on them, because they're on the on-screen keyboard along with paste. They're put there for your convenience. It's easy to quickly paste something, to undo your typing by just tapping, or in our case, double tapping on undo, redo if it's available. So sometimes that's why. You just need to swipe to the left. But I really want to stress that difference between where the focus is. If I bring my focus here and I touch a key on the keyboard,
Return, apostrophe, semicolon, comma, K, L, return, apostrophe, return.
those are all keys on the keyboard. Now, Matt, you're using direct touch typing. Why aren't they being inserted? Because I am holding my finger down. If I touch them quickly and let go,
L, K, apostrophe,
they will be inserted. But if I keep my finger there,
semicolon, apostrophe,
they don't get inserted. This is in direct touch typing. And return,
return. New line,
again,
RLK,
if I just touch it, it does get inserted. If I just tap it, if I hold it there
return.
for a second, it doesn't. And that's a good place to put your focus when you need to have focus on the keyboard. And there are times that you need to have focus on the on-screen keyboard. There are other times, however, that you need to have focus in the edit field itself. Well, isn't that the same thing? Surprisingly, no. The function is often the same, but not always, and it will affect what options are available in the rotor. So I really want to stress that. I wasn't planning on talking about that today, but praise God he showed me that I needed to, or that I should, because we talked a little about it, and I don't think I made it clear enough, and we really need to understand that before we get into Pages next week. So there is a difference between having your voiceover cursor focused here,
Return.
and then having your voiceover cursor focused here.
And.
Whoops, not there.
Cap D. Paste. Note. Text field is editing.
There.
iPad 2024 sec.
Now look what happens. If I have the focus here,
Return.
on the keyboard,
Use the rotor to access misspelled words.
Take a look what's in the rotor.
Misspelled words. Edit. Typing mode. Direct vertical headings. Contain screen text line. Word characters.
So.
Misspelled words. Edit. Typing mode. Vertical navigation.
Do a little slower.
Headings. Containers. Screen recognition. Text selection. Lines. Words. Characters.
Okay. That's when the focus is on the keyboard. What did you not hear? You did not hear actions. How are you going to add a link? But let's put the focus here.
Note. RLK. Note. Text field is editing. Remaining iPad 2024.
Now let's use the rotor.
Misspelled words. Actions.
Look what we have. We have actions there. And what else do we have?
Misspelled edit. Typing mode. Vertical headings. Containers. Screen recognition. Text select line. Word. Character. Actions.
Everything is the same except we now have actions.
Add link. Activate. Default.
Okay? I don't think I made that clear enough on Monday or even yesterday. And now I think I have, praise God, because that's really important. There is a difference when you have, and sometimes it's a bigger difference than that. In Pages, there will be times you'll see that it really matters whether the focus is on the keyboard or on the edit field itself, okay? So I just wanted to go back over that before we did anything else. Wasn't planning to, but praise God, we would say in preaching and ministry, I would say, thank you, Holy Ghost grunt. And I didn't come up with that. I got that from another preacher. But, it is true because I was not planning to do that. But I think it's going to help you now to go over that and to understand how critical that is. You're not going to find actions if your focus is on a key of the keyboard. And if you don't know, it never hurts to just tap where you actually want the focus to be, either on a key of the keyboard or somewhere else. Now, why did I specifically pick return? When I said if you want the focus on the keyboard, the return is a good one to have it on. The reason I picked return is because on the iPad, at least on the iPad Air and the standard iPad, and I think the mini, your letters are going to have alternate keys that you can access with the rotor. I don't think that's true on this large iPad. Let me check.
Cap I. Misspelled word characters.
No.
Cap L, semicolon, cap
It's
L.
not. It's not true here. But on a smaller iPad, your like QWERT, they're going to have the numbers. A, S, D, F, G, and the bottom row, ZX, they're going to have different symbols. So if I, for example, want to insert the number 3, I don't have to hit the more button, where it says numbers. It used to say more, now they just call it numbers. It's this thing which you still have even on the large iPad.
Emoji numbers.
Right there, numbers. And it's got a 1, 2, 3 symbol if you can see it. Well, I don't have to actually hit that to switch to the numbers. Even on a smaller iPad, I can just use the rotor. So if I touch the letter E and I swipe down, I hear 3. I can double tap to insert that. But what that does then is it means that if I put my focus there, again, that's going to change what the rotor can do. So when I want to put my focus on a key of the keyboard, I always use return because no matter which iPad I'm using, there's no alternate action for that letter. There's no symbol on it. It's always return. So it takes away the extra thing that I don't need. So you want to be very aware of this. This is something that will come with time and practice, right? But praise God, he's given me that, and I think you need to really get that. So that was a little side trip, but I think a very important one. Now I want to get back to what I was going to show you today, which is what else is there on the screen when we're in the Notes app, in the note itself. The note is open. We're editing the note, okay? And we've looked at some of these already.
Note done button.
There's the done button. Let's go to the left.
New note button.
Of course, we can create a new note.
Double tapped more button.
Okay, there's a more button. Let's see what's under more.
Scan button, pen button, lock button, find and note, move note, lines and grids, attachment view, delete button, debug button, customize toolbar button, undo button.
And then you're back to
redo paste.
that
button.
stuff. Okay. I'm not going to go into every one of these for the sake of time, but I do want to highlight a few, and you can play with them. You can use the user guide and so on to get more information. But I'm going to go into a few of these that I use sometimes because I think they're worth it. I will say that it's not the only way to get these options. Long pressing on the note and even the rotor will give you a lot of the same options, but this was under the more button while the note is open, so I still want to talk about some of these.
Custom debug, delete, attachment, lines and pen, scan button.
Okay, scan. Scan is going to give you a couple of options. And let's just see what happens when we double tap it so I don't mislead you here.
Scan. Notes. Show flash settings. Show position the document in view. Take picture. Selected. Auto. Manual. Cancel. Cancel. Show flash. Show
Okay.
Cancel. Cancel.
Cancel that.
Notes. Show.
So that's a way to scan a document as an image. There's also a way to do kind of an OCR, and I'll show you that here as we progress through this this demo today. But let's go back to the more button.
Note. More button.
So scan was the first thing. The next thing,
pin button.
Pin. Okay, like with messages, it is possible to pin your favorite and most important notes, as I like to say, to the top of any notes list or any notes folder. That way, you'll always have them right at the top, no matter how many notes you add, no matter how you sort your notes. So I like, there are certain notes that I use regularly for one reason or another. And you may have the same thing where you think, boy, it'd be nice if I could just access this quickly and not have to search for it or scroll or anything like that. Well, you can. You can pin a note to the top of the list. And Again, this is not the only way to do that. That's also available in the long press menu. If you long press on a note, which we'll show you, it's also available in the rotor, which we'll show you. But this is another way to pin the current note if you go to the More button while the note is open. All right, the next option.
Lock button.
Lock, another option that's available in multiple places, I do believe. This is useful for your sensitive notes. Maybe you have account numbers, checking account, electric company, these kinds of things, and you've got account numbers, you've got something sensitive. I don't store passwords in my notes because we use iCloud Keychain. I used to store passwords in my notes prior to that, and
Scan button.
I don't really store. Well, I store my bank card number, but not my my regular credit card is my Apple card, so that's my regular one. That's actually stored in the wallet, so I don't need to store it here. But those kinds of things could be stored in notes, and you can lock your notes so that it requires your biometric authentication, either Face ID or Touch ID, whichever device you have, or your device passcode. And there used to be, and there might still be, an option to also make a custom notes password. But the only thing you got to understand with that is you can't have a different password for every note. You can only have the same one password then if you're going to do it that way for your notes app. And when you lock a note, you have to view it and you have to say unlock, and it'll let you or you say view note, whatever it says, but it'll let you authenticate, and then it'll stay unlocked until you lock your iPad again, or it goes to sleep, or I think if you get out of the Notes app, also it will relock. Okay.
Pen lock button.
See what else.
Find a note button.
Okay, pretty self-explanatory, I would imagine.
Move note.
Move note means you want to move it to a different folder, right? I have all these notes in my just generic plain notes folder. I want to move some to family, some to TTJ, some to preaching, some to, whatever else. So you can move note. I'll give you the option to move it.
Lines and grids button.
Okay, you can show lines and grids. Not going to worry about that right now.
Attachment view.
You can
button.
view the attachments, which we'll talk about.
Delete button. Debug. Customize
Okay.
tool. Dismiss.
Most of these we probably will avoid talking specifically about. You know what delete means. What else was I going to comment on there? You can customize what's on the toolbar. We're just going to...
Dismiss context menu.
Okay.
Show sidebar.
So that was more.
April 2nd. New note. More button.
What else do we have in the toolbar here?
Handwriting button.
Handwriting.
Double tap to toggle the ink picker.
Very, very important to understand that this handwriting is not to be confused with the VoiceOver handwriting feature, right? That's a specific accessibility feature for people who want to handwrite to control VoiceOver, but that's not what this is. This is the ability to draw and sketch in a note. Now, anytime you have an edit field on the iPad, anytime there's an edit field, you can write in it by scribbling by hand. And on an iPad, of course, even better is to use an Apple Pencil. They're really awesome. But there's also this drawing feature. So if I show this,
Handwriting.
now what we have...
More. New note. 8. Note. Undo. Pen. Scribble. Button. Pen. Color. Black 0. Opacity. 100%. Button.
You can choose any of these writing tools, and then you can pick a color. So,
Monoline. Marker. Eraser. Lasso. Ruler. Pencil. Color. Selected. Crayon. Color. Fountain pen. Color. Watercolor. Color. Cyan blue 44. Opacity. 100%. Button.
and once you pick one of these,
Black. Button.
you can choose the color.
Blue. Green. Yellow. Selected. Red. Color picker. Button.
And there's even more colors.
More. Button.
And
Tool palette handle. Draggable. Tool
you
palette.
can drag where the tool palette is on the screen. Now, if you are a VoiceOver user and you're going to play with this and you're going to draw with an Apple Pencil or something, once you pick your color and your writing tool, I suggest, well, pick the writing tool first, because then that has a color already. You can pick the color then. And then I suggest turning VoiceOver off while you're actually drawing or writing, because this kind of handwriting, VoiceOver can interfere with it because it's not direct touch in that part, so it's not going to recognize the handwriting properly. So I suggest pick your writing tool, pick your color, and then turn off VoiceOver and draw to your heart's content, and then you can turn it back on. Now, we will
Erase. Read. Undo. April 17th. New note. More. Handwriting. Button. Handwriting.
We'll take that off. That should have taken it off now.
Note. April 7th. New. More. Share. Button.
Okay, we're going to come back to
Double
share.
tap to add people to the current note.
We're going to come back to that. All right, we're going to skip it for a moment.
Camera. Button.
I want to talk about.
Double tap to add a photo or scan a document into the current note.
Let's look at that. Let's look what that says under there.
Scan text. Button. Take photo or video. Button. Scan documents. Button. Choose photo or video. Button. Dismiss context menu.
All right,
Button.
you've got 4 options in there plus the dismiss option. So I want to talk about them very quickly. The first one was.
Scan text. Scan text.
I'm going to come back to scan text. Let's talk about the easy ones here.
Take photo or video. Choose photo or video. Button.
Self-explanatory. Take photo or video lets you use the camera to take a photo or video to attach to the current note. Choose photo or video allows you to pick from your photo library. Now, let's talk about these other ones. Scan text versus scan document. Scan text is the OCR option. I don't know that I have a document anywhere nearby that I can really do this with. I suppose I could use a device screen, but maybe we'll save that for another time. But it's the same sort of thing as the live text feature that works also in most edit fields and even in the camera, where you can take actual written text and it will scan as actual written text, meaning it's searchable, it's editable, you can read it as if you typed it, right? That's true OCR, as opposed to the scan documents option, which will scan an image, and that image may or may not be readable by VoiceOver. It really should in theory now because of the text recognition and image recognition, description features, and so forth. But you got to understand that even OCR is very dependent upon the lighting, how well the text is written, and a lot of other factors. So it may not be without flaw, but it's nice to know, praise God, that we have that option. So you have that option right here under the camera button in Notes. All right, let's
Dismiss context menu.
do that.
Show sidebar. New cap table button.
Now we can insert a.
Double tap to add a table to the current note.
We can add a table. I'm not going to do that today for the sake of time, but know that it's possible to add a table to your notes.
Checklist. Off.
We've already done checklists.
Format.
We've already done
button.
format.
Redo. Dimmed. Undo. Enter full screen.
And you can
Toolbar.
actually
208. Enter.
You can actually take this note full screen so that it takes up both sides of the iPad. That can be very useful when it is, what, I want to save this. Just got a news article I want to save. There we go. So anyway, that's how that works. You can make it full screen if you want. Let's go back to the share button now, because I said we'd come back to that. It is possible to share a note in 2 ways, as with a lot of items on your Apple products, whether they be whether they be documents or any kind of file really from the Files app, right? And even photos just in a kind of different way. So you can typically send a copy to somebody, which just sends the thing to them, or you can collaborate, which allows for both people to work together on something, often even in real time. Now, in Notes specifically, if you choose Send Copy, it is not going to send a file that they can open in the Notes app. I hope you're listening to this, because this is really important to understand. If you choose Send Copy when you share, it's not going to send them a note that they can open in their Notes app. Instead, it's literally going to take the text and everything in that note, and it's going to just send it right in the body of an email or a message, however you choose to send it. Okay, that's the way Send Copy works in the Notes app. It's different in the Files app, but that's the way it works in the Notes app. But if you say collaborate, it will allow them to open it in their Notes app. So if you want them to be able to keep it in the Notes app, send it collaboratively. Now you might say, but I don't want them to be able to edit it. Okay, you can disable that. That's fine. Let me show this to you.
Table. More. Share button.
Let's hit share.
Double tap. Remaining iPad 2024 sessions. Remaining iPad.
Now, you remember from Files that we have a button
Send copy. Remaining. Send copy. Button.
And that is the button that determines whether we're sending a copy or we're collaborating. Right now, it's already set to send copy. If I want to collaborate, I have to double tap that and choose
Collaborate. Dismiss context menu. Mail. Button. Shelly. Pat. Kliph. Collaborate. Button.
Notice, now it says collaborate. And now if we swipe to the right,
Only invited people can edit. Forward. Button.
that's a button that lets us change the options. So only invited people can edit, or again, you can make it public with a link. You can make it so that nobody but you can edit. So we could choose that this is read only when we collaborate. So if you want somebody to be able to open it in their Notes app but not edit it, you can actually specify that when you are collaborating. You just double tap on that button and it's going to give you that option. Let's see what else we have now to the right.
Zoom meeting. Suggestion. Button.
Now, oh, look at that. It wants to put my note in this Zoom meeting. I could share the agenda with y'all. Not going to, but I could.
Diane, Bill, Mom, Pat Murphy, Kylie, Jessica Volbrecht, Shelley, Edward Carson Volbrecht.
All these sharing suggestions, and then
Viola, airdrop, button.
airdrop, and all these.
Messages, mail, reminders, freeform.
Just like all the other share sheets we've looked at, right?
Zoom, button.
There's an option I want to get to specifically here. A couple options I want to talk about. That's why I'm going through this.
Amazon, Facebook, invite with link, button.
Okay, so you can actually send a link to invite to collaborate.
More, copy, button. Open in Pages, button.
You can open your notes in the Pages app. That is a really powerful feature because you can take your note to the next level by bringing it into Pages.
Button. Print, button.
We can print out our notes.
Find products on Amazon. Search products. Download file. Edit actions.
And the one option you don't have here because I'm collaborating instead of sending a copy, but if I had it on send a copy, you'd also see save to files.
Picture in picture. Notes.
We'll get out of that.
Notes. Edit actions. Button.
Now,
show side.
If you do have save to files, the way that a note is saved is as a text file, a TXT. You can also bring your TXT files into Notes by copying a file and then pasting its contents into the Notes app so that you can edit it. So people say, well, you can't edit TXT files on an iPad. Well, yes, you can. There's just an extra step. It's sort of a workaround, but yes, you can edit text files. What you do is somebody sends you a text file, you open it up in Quick Look, you choose share and you choose copy, and then you open a new note and you say paste, and now you can edit, and then you can save it back to files, and you can save it as a text file again. And remember, when you're saving files, you can rename them as you save them. That's especially important in Notes because they don't get a file name. Otherwise, they're called text.txt. But you can change the name of them as you're saving them, and so that's the procedure for that. But you can also open your note in Pages, which I really like because that's a useful feature as well. So some of that you'd have had to hit send to copy instead of collaborate to see. But I wanted to show you the collaborative options because, again, just like with files, you can say, anybody that I invite can make changes, or anybody that I can invite can only read only, right? But then you also can say everybody can view as long as they have the link. Now, if you're going to do that, we definitely recommend using read only because you don't know who's going to access it, right? So you can make them public. You can, however you want to do that. So that's sharing, and it's very powerful. I've already discussed with you on Monday that we can share entire folders collaboratively, and that's so useful. It's a very powerful feature, and we use it quite frequently. We have a shared notes folder with the TTJ team. We've got a family notes folder. We use the family notes folder for our spring cleaning every year. We do a big spring cleaning and inside and outside and everything, and we make checklists and we assign them to different people. And we check them off. And we could do that in reminders too, but that's just how we've done it. Is in Notes, and so it's pretty cool. So sharing, collaboration, really critical features of the Notes app, I believe. And I often talk about different examples. Obviously within families and and friends and so on among friends, but also, from a business perspective. I mean, think about education. I just think the iPad shines in education as it does in so many areas, right? But I mean, when you talk about, let's say, a group of students working together on a project, maybe that, they're working on, some kind of a project where they're in a group and each person has to do different research and so forth. So you could have collaborative notes, you could have, collaborative reminders, all these kinds of things. I mean, collaboration is just such an important aspect of this nowadays. Okay, so I think you've seen how to insert, photos and videos, how to insert links. I also want to just very quickly show you that you can attach other things to your note even if you're not able to see them in the menus, because a lot of the apps have share sheets that will support that. So let's, for example, go to voice memos here.
Voice memos.
There we go. It was somewhere
Double
nearby.
tap. Voice memos. Record.
I really like to make recordings in the spring and the summer of the birds and how excited they sound, and it's just beautiful. I think this
14,
recording was
Friday,
probably
duration.
one such recording.
New recording tab. Current play button. Stop button. Pause button.
I don't know how well you can hear that,
Close button.
but it is the birds.
Pause.
We're going to pause that. All right, praise God. So if I want to bring this into a note,
Share button. Recording
share.
14. Recording
Go down
dismiss
here.
pop-up. Notes button.
There's notes in the share sheet. In my share sheet for voice memos here is one of the options. You can see
Mail messages.
the usuals,
button.
but look here.
Notes button.
Notes is one of the options. Now,
Cancel button.
when I choose that,
Notes heading save button. Save to heading new note button.
so I can choose to save it to a new note, or I can actually add this to an existing note by double tapping that button and choosing a different note. The other thing I can do,
This attachment will be saved in a new note.
see,
Add text to your note. Text
we
field.
can also put text in
Double
this.
tap to edit. Use insertion point at end. Cap I.
We're just going to call it birds.
It cap B O R.
Whoops, hold on.
Delete R O.
Okay,
I
B-I.
R D S.
And now I'm going to go up here to the top
Save button.
and hit save.
Save. Show sidebar button.
Now, because my default is the regular generic notes folder, it's probably going to be there. We'll go back to the notes app, 4-finger swipe to the right, and
Note. Show sidebar.
show sidebar. And I'm just going to, you know what I'm actually going to do to make it easy?
Faith Summit 2000.
I'm going to go to all iCloud.
Betty. No, all iCloud. Selected.
Okay.
All hide sidebar.
Hide the sidebar, and let's take a look on the right-hand side.
Note. Remaining iPad
Whoops.
tomorrow. Pinned.
Okay.
Button. Heading. Collapsed.
All right, we don't want to look
Double
at the
tap to expand.
pinned section because I haven't pinned it.
Today. Heading.
Here's the note.
Birds. Modified 3:13 p.m.
From today. So if I double, listen.
Birds. Modified 3:13 p.m. One audio recording in folder notes.
Okay, and it tells me where it is. I double tap.
Selected. Birds.
Now on the right.
Note. Audio attachment. Recording 14. Audio attachment. Recording 14.m4a. Audio recording. Middle dot. Note. Audio attachment.
If I double tap it.
Selected. Birds. Selected. Media timeline. Media play button. Recording 14.
Again, I'm not 100% sure how well you can hear that over the screen share. Wasn't that cool, folks? Because you can actually attach files to your note, even the kinds of files that don't appear in the menu within the Notes app. The other thing I have not talked about is the quick note feature. There are different ways that you can start a quick note. Some of your share sheets will contain the quick note option. You also can create custom voiceover gestures for quick note, and I'm pretty sure that I created one, but I gotta be honest with you, I don't remember what it is, because I've actually not used it as much as I thought I would, because when I create a new note, I just do it. But it is a cool feature, because it allows you to quickly create a note, and it'll either add to what you already have, or create a new one. The gesture for a sighted person is to take their finger or their Apple Pencil and do a diagonal swipe up from the bottom right corner of the iPad screen. That doesn't really work with VoiceOver, but again, VoiceOver allows you to assign custom gestures to that quick note feature. But there are other ways you can access it as well, like you can do a new quick note in the Notes app or from a share menu. But again, the benefit of having that quick swipe gesture. But if you are not a VoiceOver user, that's really cool for you. Even if your iPad screen is locked, you can do that. You can take the Apple Pencil or your finger and do a diagonal swipe from the bottom right up to the top left corner, and it'll create that quick note or add on to an existing quick note, and you can just keep typing. So if you want to jot down quick thoughts and stuff like that, you can do that. All right. The last thing I want to talk about with Notes is we're going to just very, very briefly start talking to you about keyboards. We're going to switch gears. The real keyboard exploration is going to come next week with Pages. When I say keyboards, I mean mechanical, physical keyboards, right? External. The real keyboard discussion is going to come as part of Pages next week. We always call Kliph the keyboard king. And that's a title that is well earned, well deserved, because he used to have, I don't know if he still does, a keyboard in every room of the house and even one in his car. There are so many keyboard types out there that I want him to talk about some of his experiences. My experiences are with a couple of Logitech keyboards and the Apple ones, and he's got a lot more experience with some of those and with especially the Logitechs. I currently have two keyboards because I got two iPads. My iPad Air has the Apple Smart Keyboard Folio, and that's the one that does protect the back and so on. And it's got a keyboard. It's not the really high-end one. It's the one just below it, but I really like it for the iPad Air. It's a nice fit. It just works very, very well. Then for my iPad Pro, I do have the high-end flagship Magic keyboard with trackpad. And one of these days, I'm going to send one to Trainer Kliph just so because he likes the feel of it. But, we joke about the price of it and so on. But I'm telling you, best typing experience I've ever had on any device. Those are the two that I have. Smart Keyboard Folio and Magic Keyboard with trackpad. They're available in multiple flavors for the iPad Air and both sizes of the iPad Pro.
Let me make it clear before I start talking about physical keyboards that I learned on the touchscreen. My iPhone was the first touchscreen device that I ever used. I always joke about it because I had a friend that I no longer talk to right now. I mean, we're still friends, but we just haven't talked in a while. He lives in Georgia, and at the time that I was introduced to the iPhone, I was using the good old handy dandy Windows Touch Pro 2. And as most of you may not know, Matt and you know, that phone came with a slide out keyboard and you could tilt the screen, and it was a cute little setup. I was on a list that talked about, or people referenced the iPhone, and he told me that the iPhone was the best thing since sliced bread. I didn't believe him. I said, how are you going to use a phone with a touchscreen and you're blind? I mean, speech is all that. It's good, but it's not that good. Well, I bought an iPhone in June of 2011, and I've never went back. The iPhone is the best thing since sliced bread, to me anyway. And back then, Bluetooth was not supported. So you had no choice but to learn on the touch screen how to double tap, how to type, how to swipe, how to scroll, how to do things that our sighted counterparts could do by just looking at the screen. So, that being said, I learned VoiceOver. I wasn't a genius, but I knew more than most because I'm patient and I don't like to let, as I like to say, technology get the best of me. I want to know how to do it and use it and take advantage of the benefits of it. So, on to 2013-14 when keyboards and Bluetooth were supported. The first keyboard that I ever had was the Apple Magic keyboard, the one that held two AA batteries that you had to open with the nickel and slide the batteries in. So I might remember that, but because that was like back in what did we call, what did I call it last night, Matt? The Apple caveman days. These are
Right.
things. these are devices that no longer exist. I mean, they probably exist, but they no longer. There's upgrades. And that keyboard was okay. I mean, it was fine for what it did because I used it with my iMac, and I could go back and forth and pair between my phone and my iMac at the time. Over the years, I've used a lot of keyboards, and I do mean a lot. And yes, I do still have a keyboard in every room. Not the restroom though. That's a bit extensive, but I do have one. I do have one in the living room. I have one in the bedroom. I even have one that sits on top of my microwave in the kitchen. And of course, there's still one in the car. But I've learned by trial and error that every keyboard is not a good fit. I mean, there's some keyboards that say that they work, and they say that they are this, that, and the other. And a lot of the keyboards that I got, they were pretty inexpensive in price, 12, 13, 14 bucks. And they were Android keyboards, though. So they worked with the phone, but you couldn't do everything. Over the last 5 or 6 years, though, my favorite company that makes keyboards, second to Apple, is Logitech. And actually, Logitech is my favorite because Apple, I love Apple. I love the accessibility. I love how they go above and beyond. But me and some of their price points just don't get along. For instance, the Apple Magic Keyboard that I talk about, it can be paired with your iPad, your phone, your Mac, even your iPod Touch if you have one. But you can only pair it with one device. And it's somewhere in the neighborhood of $99. I can get a Logitech keyboard for that same price, or probably $10 less, and pair it with 3 devices. And guess what? It has the exact same layout. Matter of fact, I got a keyboard on my desk right now. That is a Logitech extended keyboard with a numpad. And if I had a Apple Magic keyboard with a numpad, the key layout would be identical. And I mean identical. There's nothing different about these keyboards except who makes them. The other thing that's different about them is Logitech makes little key grooves or finger grooves, for lack of a better term. So your hands just flow over the keys. Matt talked about the keyboard he has for the iPad that if he sends it to me, I'm gonna put return to sender. But this Logitech keyboard has such a smooth typing experience that I forget that I'm even typing on a keyboard sometimes. Sometimes I feel like I'm just typing on air because that's how great the keyboard is. The keys just, you don't have to press them hard. You don't have to pound on them or nothing like that. And it's just great. But let's go to iPad keyboards because that's what class we're in right now. I've used a variety of smart as well as Bluetooth keyboards that are keyboard cases. And one of my favorite is the Combo Touch that Logitech makes. Now, again, like I said, Apple makes some great keyboards, but the same keyboard that Apple makes for the iPad, that's this model, is $150 more. I don't know now because I haven't had it in a couple years. But the thing I loved about this keyboard is, one, it had a smart connector built into it. So you didn't have to pair it. So for instance, if you got a brand new iPad and you put this keyboard on, you could use the keyboard to type in your Wi-Fi password, sign into your Apple ID, do an iCloud backup and all that. So you wouldn't even have to wait to, if it was a Bluetooth, you'd have to wait till you got your device set up in order to pair it, because you'd have to do that in settings. But because the smart connector, which is located on the back of your iPad, and it sits right in the groove, and you don't even have to worry about charging the keyboard because it uses your iPad battery, and not a whole lot either. It doesn't drain your battery at all. But the smart connector connects right to the keyboard. So now back to this Combo Touch. The reason I like it so much is because it had a small little kickstand on the back, so you could tilt it and work with it. But Trainer Matt has told you a few times that he has a couple different keyboards, and sometimes he takes his iPad out of the Magic keyboard that is an arm and a leg and a couple toes to buy. I'm joking. It's only about $350. Still a little bit higher than I would like to pay, but it's a nice keyboard. I have to admit, I have played with it in the Apple Store, and if somebody gave it to me as a gift with an iPad, I probably would use it. I absolutely would use it. But I'm not a big trackpad fan, and that's where the Touch Pro combo comes in. Actually, it does have the Touch Pro combo does have a trackpad on it, but it wasn't as big as on some keyboards. But the best benefit of this keyboard for me, the reason I loved it so much, is when I wasn't using the keyboard, I could just pull the iPad and the keyboard apart, and the keyboard or the iPad had its own case that you could just hold it in your hand and do like Turner Matt does and do on-screen typing or watch movies or use your Apple Pencil or whatever the case may be. But the bottom line is you could pull these two pieces apart. Now, if you wanted it to be a case and just close it, you could. But I loved it because, like I said, I could just leave the keyboard portion of it in on my desk or in a drawer and just take the iPad into the kitchen with me or outside in the backyard and shoot videos of the kids or whatever the case may be. Now,
And that sounds a lot, Kliph, like the one that Apple makes specifically for the 10th generation iPad. It sounds almost identical because that one has a kickstand on the back, like you say, and then the top part that's the keyboard, comes completely off if you just want the back cover. And it actually can even go on in two ways, so that some people, I guess, don't like the keys being against their fingers if they flip it around to the back. You can actually flip the cover over so that you have the soft part of the case against your fingers. So it sounds almost identical to the keyboard that you're describing.
Now, as it relates to Logitech and Bluetooth keyboard, not the magical or the smart connector, the one we're talking about. So if you just had an iPad and you wanted to have it laying on the table or tilted up on, whatever case you had, there's some different models of the Logitech keyboard that they have. Wow, somebody honked loud outside. But there's the MX and there's the I forgot the other one. It's the controller or the I'm gonna have to look at my list of keyboards here because I know I have it paired with my Mac. I think it's calling it a mechanical keyboard, and to be fair, the keys on that keyboard are actually a little bit louder. I actually don't even use that keyboard no more. It's in a drawer because I discovered the MX models, and like I said, that one, the keys are so quiet and comfortable, and two, it's the exact same layout. If somebody had told me it was an Apple keyboard and I didn't know any better, I would think it was because the keys are exactly the same. They're in the exact same location. It has a little 9-pack just to the right of the all the keys between the numpad and the regular keyboard with the arrow keys right below it. I mean, the function key is in that 9-pack just like on the Apple keyboard. And they actually have the smaller version of it also without the numpad where you have the globe key down in the right hand corner like the Apple keyboard. So I don't know if we would make jokes all the time that maybe they're partners. We don't call them partners because it's not been confirmed. But the way that Logitech works or designs their keyboards so that they're laid out just like Apple is amazing. I mean, you couldn't get closer. But you have to be careful though, because some years ago, I think it was 2015 or 16, there was a K810 and a K811, and the 11 was designed for Mac and iOS. The 810 was designed for Windows and Android. And one time I accidentally got the 10 and couldn't use it at all. The only thing I could do with it is type. But when it came to the keys on the bottom row, the option and command keys were reversed and hardly ever did any commands. So when you're looking for a keyboard, you have to make sure that you get the right kind of layout. Most of them will have Mac OS, iOS, iPad, iPhone in the description. I don't even see many keyboards anymore with Android in the description. Maybe it just doesn't even matter because of the way they're designed now. But the last thing I'll talk about, for the sake of time, because we still got to get to freeform here, is the keyboards that I use now are all USB-C charged. They do still make some keyboards, Bluetooth keyboards, that take double and triple A batteries. Those are fine. The batteries probably last for 6 or 7 months, but I like the fact that I can plug the keyboard in with the same connector or charging cable that my iPhone uses, and it charges it right up. And it lasts for 3-4 months, not as long, but I actually use my keyboards every day, all day. So when it lasts that long, that's amazing to me, because I mean, I even use this Logitech keyboard at work because, again, you compare it with three devices. So the number one is my Mac, number two is my phone, and number three is my work computer. So that's why I'm able to do a lot of things while I work, and it's slow or whatever because the Logitech keyboards allow me to pair with three devices. There used to be a keyboard out there paired with 4 or 5 devices, but I didn't find that one very reliable. It didn't last very long, and it wasn't designed for Mac. So, and once you go Mac, you don't go back. I mean, I haven't used a PC except for work since 2016, but I haven't used a PC personally for personal use since 2016. I'm it pays the bills, so I use it, and I still get requests to train people with JAWS and Word and Excel and stuff like that. So that's what I use it for. But other than that, for personal use, it's all about Mac and iPhone. And I don't have an iPad yet, but I hear some new ones are going on sale next month, and me and Matt's been doing some work on our websites, and I figured out that website app works best with an iPad, and I might just get one just for that purpose. But my favorite keyboard is the Logitech series. Apple's keyboards are great. If you have the money to get those keyboards, fine. But I'm not going to say any, but Logitech's third-party keyboards will definitely work. There's a couple more companies out there that work closely and make sure that Apple keyboards work. But again, be specific on what you're looking for. The smart connector one will get you up and running instantly. The Bluetooth ones, you'll have to wait till your device is set up. So, and we'll talk more about commands as we get into pages and stuff like that. But the mechanical keyboard, I'm not going to say it's better than the touchscreen, but it gives you the ability to do things a little faster. Wouldn't you agree that's a good assessment about that, Matt?
Well, I think that's a great assessment. When you're writing long documents, that's where the keyboard really shines for me. I like to use the touchscreen, but when I get into writing documents and stuff like that, then I want to, have a mechanical keyboard. And just to supplement the great information there that Kliph provided, going back to that Bluetooth versus smart connector, that's also really important when you are looking at Apple keyboards, because I've talked to customers before, and I'll say to them, not even thinking about it, because I don't use the Mac as often as I use the iPad. And I'll say, not even thinking about it, do you know which keyboard do you have? And they'll say it's an Apple keyboard. And I'll say, oh, is it the Magic keyboard? They'll say, yeah, that's it. It's the Magic keyboard. It turns out it's not the Magic keyboard for the iPad that they have. It's the Magic Bluetooth keyboard that was originally designed for the Macintosh. See, the word magic with keyboards is a term that Apple uses to denote the typing experience and so on of the keyboard. But there are multiple Magic keyboards. There's the Bluetooth Magic keyboard that ships with every iMac, and I guess with the Mac Studio and so forth. There's the Magic keyboard with trackpad.
Now remember, the Mac
iPad
Studio is
Air
another
Pro.
version of the Mac Mini, so it technically doesn't come with any peripherals.
Oh, it doesn't. You have to buy it separately.
Right.
Oh, okay. So there's that. There's the Bluetooth keyboard for the Macs. There's the Magic keyboard for certain iPad. There's it's so you just want to be very clear about smart connector versus Bluetooth, as Kliph said. That's the point of all that. And again, I think personally the iPad, the way to go there is the smart connector, because you're going to get a case automatically, even though you can get Bluetooth keyboard cases too, but you're going to get the benefit of being able to just snap it into place and it works, whether you're trying to do it out of the box or just, for the sake of not having to charge it, not having to pair, not having to, do all that extra stuff.
One more thing I forgot to touch on, and, we went back and forth about this a few years back. The row above the numbers. I used to not buy keyboards unless it had that number, what we used to call the function keys. Now they're called iOS shortcut keys. A lot of keyboards don't come with those anymore because they're not even necessary, because you can do a lot of those commands, especially on the iPad, on screen. Turning up the volume, going home, activating Siri and Spotlight. And when it turns out, when I actually got a keyboard, I forgot what it was called, man. It was that Apple keyboard, not the Magic. It was the one with the smart connector, but remember, it didn't have the row, but it was very.
Yeah, that's the one I think I have for the iPad Air, that smart keyboard folio.
Right. So when I didn't have those keyboard or that function row or that iOS row, I didn't miss it. So, but I used to require my keyboards to have those. Now it doesn't even matter unless I'm on the Mac, and I don't even use it very much there either because everything can be done with keyboard commands and shortcut keys and things of that nature. So, when you're looking for a keyboard, I guarantee you that should not be a requirement. And I speak from experience on that one because when I didn't have it, I didn't miss it, and it just, when Apple does something, they usually get it right. And when they took that away, they got it right.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. As we will learn next week, iPad OS and iOS, they really don't recognize traditional F1 through F12 as you think of them with other keyboards. So if there is a row above the numbers, it will be designated, as Kliph said, as like iOS shortcuts. And some do have them, and you'll have one that activates, SIRI, another one that activates a spotlight search, maybe one that turns on do not disturb for you. You'll have media control, stuff like that. But it's kind of more of how much harder is it to lift your hand a couple extra inches and touch it on the screen, And so maybe theoretically, a few less steps, but it just really isn't critical. And a lot of the Apple keyboards don't have it. So thank you, Trainer Kliph, for sharing all that information. And we are going to pick up on keyboards again next week. We're going to look at the commands, iPad OS commands versus voiceover commands, and some of those things as part of our discussion on Pages. So the Freeform app, it is a relatively new app that Apple has provided, and it really fits in nicely with the world of notes and note taking. Sometimes we jokingly say, kind of notes on steroids, right? This app is designed from the ground up to be collaborative for design, expression, note taking, all of these kinds of things. There are some third-party apps that people used in the same way. I never used them personally, so I don't know if I'm giving exact comparisons, but things maybe like Evernote or things of that nature. But Freeform is fully accessible with VoiceOver, 100%. It works very, very well. And it gives you a chance to combine text with drawings, with photos and videos, with web links, with audio, and even with what they call shapes, which we're going to learn next week with Pages and Freeform, that a shape is kind of equivalent to the clip art of yesteryear. Do you remember years ago when word processing apps used to feature, bundles of clip art, animated little things that you could insert an apple or a dog or a piece of bread or, all these different, hundreds and hundreds of images. And in the late 90s, that really just took off. You could buy giant packs on DVD. We had like a collection of DVDs or CDs that had like 125,000 clip art images. And then we got all excited when a few months later we got a letter in the mail. I don't even think it was email back then, but a letter in the mail saying, now we have a pack with 250,000 clip art images you can upgrade to, and this was a real big thing. And then it sort of started to fade out a little bit because people were more doing actual photos and videos and stuff like that if they were inserting anything at all. But there are still uses for these, and Apple calls them shapes, and they ship a whole bunch with Pages and Freeform. And I'm going to stop the screen share, by the way. And so when you use Freeform, what you get is you get a board. They call them boards. And a board is like the equivalent of a document. And on that board, you can put different elements in places that you want to put them. And you can drag them around, move them, and reorder them and put them wherever you want. And so it is great for planning a trip. It's great for working together on projects with different people. I could see so many uses for this Freeform app. You could, I think about, again, like we talk about like education in school, like doing a project. And I could see where, you might be doing maybe a project, something of a history nature. Well, I'll just, I suppose you'd say cheat and use the easy one, right? Because I've done so much with the Titanic. We'll just say that. So maybe your board has a picture of the Titanic. And then maybe below that, it's got an audio recording of a testimony from a passenger. And then maybe off to the right, you would have a picture of an iceberg. And below that, maybe you have a PDF timeline or a table of timeline events of the Titanic voyage. Maybe below that, somebody used their Apple Pencil and they drew or sketched an image. All of these things can be combined on this board, and it's all collaborative from the ground up. Everything is collaborative. Everything allows you to work together in real time with multiple people, and it's fully accessible. So I don't want to leave it out. I want to talk about it on Tuesday. Please come to the lab on Tuesday for that demonstration, and then you'll get a chance to try Freeform for yourself, because it really is doable with VoiceOver. But we're going to start Pages on Monday. We're going to have keyboards next week. Like I said, we're into the real meat of this course now, and we want to give you all these opportunities to learn this stuff. Some of you will say, well, I'll never use that, and that may be true. Maybe you won't, but certainly doesn't hurt to learn it, and you never know. Maybe there's a time that you will want to use it.
Oh, what's the difference between like that journal app and the notes app?
So the journal app is not on the iPad. That is an iPhone app.
That's just for the iPhone. Okay.
But that is, specifically what it says. It's a journal app, and I've really not used it, but I've looked a little bit at what it does, and it does show, like, it'll prompt you to journal your thoughts and your feelings and so on. It's journaling suggestions and so on. But now Freeform is more similar to notes, and that is on the iPad. We'll look at that next week along with Pages.
You neglected, I think, not on purpose, to say that when you were flipping through those options at the beginning of the session, where you said that added actions, but it also adds select that wasn't there when it wasn't focused on the edit field, Matt.
Oh,
I just wanted to.
I think you actually have to have text selected before to give you that option.
Okay. I wasn't sure if it would give it.
I could be wrong. I mean, I'm not an iPad user, so
he went past it, and I heard it, but he didn't.
Oh,
say
okay.
it.
I had walked away too.
Rotor option, and I don't even remember whether it was, but yeah, I mean that is, again, that's where it's just so critical to try it both ways, because
and to make sure, like he said, that you're in the text field, because like you just said, Viola, if you're not in that text field, it's not even going to give you that option anyway.
It's not going to.
We think we've covered something, and then once God shows it to us in our spirit how we really ought to cover it, it's like, how did I miss that? Like the light bulb, like that's the most obvious thing in the world, but it wasn't until today. It wasn't obvious to me that I hadn't covered that enough. Thanks to Trainer Kliph. Thanks to everybody. God bless you. Have a great rest of your week and a great weekend, and we will see you next time.
Thanks for joining today's session. Didn't get your question answered? Want paid one-on-one training? Email us at support@TTJTech.biz or support@SturItUp.com. And remember, Stur is spelled with a U. That's SturItup.com. I'm Trainer Kliph. Thanks for joining us. God bless. See you next time.